control over these components. They are non-product contacts, so there are some relaxation of the use of rivets on off-the-shelf type items. Frames and supports, if necessary, can be painted if they're not stainless steel. The cleaning requirements are very general. We're just looking for surfaces that can be hosed down, cleaned off, and washed up to keep the environment clean. There's no special requirements for drainability. There should be no pooling of liquids. Areas should be inspectable to make sure they are clean. Draining, no pooling of liquids. If there are exposed threads, they should be limited to 1/2 of the diameter of the thread that's exposed. And this, if the threads happen to be in a splash zone, then they really should be covered by a cap nut or something like that. There are no exposed threads on adjustable legs because adjustable legs are covered by their own standard. And it doesn't allow for any exposed threads down to a floor pad or anything like that. Service lines, pneumatic exhaust ought to be away from the product and the product contact surfaces. Hydraulic lines need to be installed to prevent contamination of product from any leaks. They can use shields or troughs or place them underneath the product levels when they're locating hydraulics. As a general rule, there should be no radiator style hose clamps, the screwdriver type hose clamps. They're just a catchment place for debris. Panels, doors, and access ports. Lots of machines have these types of panels. The construction and design essentially should be such to prevent contamination from gaining access into the machine. Stuff on the outside of the doors and covers need to remain on the outside of the machine. So you shouldn't have covers and things that kind of slip in a rail that goes back into the processing or product area of the tank. If hinges are used or guards and safety devices, are used, OSHA does require that there be safety guards on certain types of equipment. It's not uncommon to have rotating shafts and things on pumps and things of that nature covered either by a solid shield or a kind of a wire mesh type of guard. For sanitation and inspection, we obviously want to be able to remove those shields so we can get at the seals. They shouldn't collect water or debris inside the shield, so that if they are solid, they should have a drain hole or something on the bottom. Legs should have, if they don't have adjustable feet on them, should have rounded ends to minimize the point of contact on the floor, or they can have a flat load-bearing foot that can be bonded or masticed into the floor. If the equipment is semi-movable or portable, often pumps or other pieces of equipment, and they use casters. Casters should be large enough to easily move the equipment. They should provide at least 4 inches of clearance underneath the lowest part of the framework so that you can clean up underneath even as you move them. The reason we want the casters to be big enough is that if you get casters too small and it's very difficult to move the machine, chances are they won't move it. Mountings to slabs or islands or on columns or things, if things are mounted that way, they should be either on offsets so you can clean behind them, or bonded right tight to the slab or island or to the wall. Supports need to be fully sealed. If they're hollow, they need to be welded up. If you have hinges or anything else on the supports, the support panels or doors, the hinges need to be of sanitary design. There's any number of kinds of hinges that you can lift off. They're just pin and recess kind of hinges that are very sanitary. What you want to guard against is that there are no continuous or piano style hinges allowed on sanitary equipment with the exception that they might be located on control boxes and electrical boxes and things which are sufficiently located away from the product zones, at least by 18 inches away. One thing to be cognizant of is that many new machines, particularly packaging machines, form, fill, and seal type machines, particularly those where you're putting blocks of cheese or something into vacuum form recesses, and then they put an overlayer over it. The machines are designed for left-handed or right-handed use. So the control panel swings back and forth. Well, that makes the control panel a product contact surface because it's going to swing right back over an exposed product container or exposed product. So you have to be careful when they're using those types of machines and keep that under your consideration. Catwalks, stairs, and handrails, these are considered as part of the building. Very rarely will they be incorporated into the scope of a 3A standard, even a large piece of equipment like a spray dryer. All the supporting deck work, all of the handrails, all of the stairs, everything need to be looked at outside of the practice and considered under your normal plant inspection procedures for walls, floors, ceilings, and doors and windows, that type of thing. They're generally not covered by a 3A standard. Many pieces of equipment require information plates. The 3A standards do require that there be information plates on equipment like that that clearly says these agitators are designed to be only in a processing area or in a non-processing area. And it depends on the sophistication of the type of seal that may go on that equipment. So if they're following the standard, there should be a clear information plate mounted to the tank, which speaks to the agitators and also speaks, is this tank designed to be bulkheaded, or does it all have to be within a processing area? So there are a number of different examples of nameplates in the format and style manual, but the specific standards will have exactly what that standard needs. For bulk tanks, there may be requirements on cooling capacity and how quickly it can cool the milk. All of that information should be listed on these information plates. If you're doing farm inspections and you're checking bulk tanks, it would be a big service to yourself if you had a copy of the standard and knew exactly what to require. Generally, the nameplates should be attached so that they in themselves don't create cracks and crevices. So they shouldn't be screwed on, they shouldn't be riveted on. They can be continuously welded. They can go to Mylar type of adhesive. The Mylar works good if they don't get too many harsh chemicals on them. They do wear out and they do fade. But there are a lot of pieces of equipment that are using the Mylar type of information plates. The next section after the non-product contact section is the appendix. As we said earlier, this is generally informational or advisory. The terms used in the appendix is should rather than shall, which are requirements. Our old format allowed information to be in the appendix, but it was actually a requirement. And the only way you can tell is that when you go back into the fabrication section, it will have a clear statement that says the radiuses or the O-rings shall comply with appendix section X, whatever it is. The newer standards, we've tried to move all that information that was important to be right in the section of the standard, so you didn't have to flip back and forth. Under the new format, you will see the statement refer to an appendix section, but that refer to doesn't make it compulsory. It's just guiding you for more information, go here. So when you just refer to it, it's not a requirement. In the appendix sections, we have a section on stainless steels that talks about, again, the 300 series stainless, what's basically required if you're going to weld it, the low carbon requirements for welding. There is this list of optional metal alloys. The stainless steel section also includes both the wrought stainless, which is plate and sheet, that is primarily used, but there's also a reference there of the various cast grades that may be used for pump heads, may be used for other pieces of equipment. The optional metal alloys allows for certain types of metal that are harder, more corrosion resistant, have anti-galling properties. There's a number of things that fabricators like to use, and they're listed under the optional metal alloys. It's not an all-inclusive list, and other alloys that are not on that list can be used if they can provide documentation that they are the equivalent to 304 for corrosion resistance. The product contact surface section also makes a declarative statement that the 2B mill finish is acceptable. Again, it gives you the benchmark, which is 150 grit silicon carbide, properly applied to stainless steel sheets. That's the benchmark that is used to define a number 4 polished and ground surface. There's a section on electroless nickel alloy coatings that has been commonly used in the past, so there's some parameters on what that entails. There's a section on air venting. Again, it hasn't a lot of sanitary significance as far as the equipment concerned, but it does have a fairly large significance on whether or not you suck in a silo during cleaning or not. So it's good information for both users and fabricators to calculate that they've got enough air movement so that when their equipment, their vessels go through dramatic temperature changes, you don't end up with a collapsed over-the-road tanker or a collapsed silo. There are a section on CIP cleaning and cleaning procedures. It's very general in the format and style manual because products are so variable, it's hard to put in standardized things for cleaning. What you really need to do, or what the equipment fabricator and the users will do, is they'll deal with their cleaning chemical suppliers to determine what are the proper times, temperatures, solution strengths, things of that nature. So those are kind of outside the scope of the 3A sanitary standards. But if there is something special about the equipment that they want to convey certain cleaning characteristics or requirements, this is where you would find that information. It is recommended that the fabricators have an EDTCF, which is an engineering, design, and technical construction file. This is the file that assembles all of their information of how they have built this machine. Now, this is not required for approval or compliance or conformance with a standard. It is required in order to get a symbol, which is a separate program within 3A. But this may or may not be available, and it most likely is not available to you at the plant level. This is a document that is held by the fabricator. There's some guidance on what should be in instruction handbooks, owner's manuals, things like that. If there's any special requirements for maintenance, cleaning, gasket replacement, gasket types, gasket materials that they recommend, this type of informational material will be put in the appendix of the standard. And that essentially is the conclusion of the types of information that are in the format and style manual, which gives the general concepts of 3A, but all of this information is also in the very specific documents that would cover either a specific type of equipment or